Once again, I'd like to welcome back the Superintendent of Griswold Public Schools, Mr. Sean Mckenna. Sean, last time you were here, we talked about the budget, the lack of a budget by the state, and you had made a couple of comments about that budget. You stated that you thought a lot of it was theatrics. Can you explain what you meant by that?
So in late August, I think it was actually mid-August, maybe August 18th, when the governor put out that executive order with draconian cuts. Remember, 80-something towns were zeroed out. They weren't getting any funding whatsoever. We were cut somewhere between $4 and $5 million. What I meant by that was that strategically, he was trying to force the legislature to come up with something, right? Because they hadn't. There are all these proposals out there. There was his proposal, the Democrat proposal. There was a House Senate proposal. And so the thinking behind that was, at the time, again, I can't believe we're having this conversation now, was that would sort of goad the legislature to come to some kind of agreement, preferably at the time when school started. Such was not the case.
The state doesn't have a budget.
Right.
Thinking Malloy was announcing through his camp that Friday's the 13th.
Great day.
Yeah. Great budget day. There hasn't really been a lot of chatter coming out of Hartford as far as putting anything together. They just keep saying they don't. Now they're saying, people from the House are saying that maybe by the 15th. How does that affect the Griswold Board of Education and how the school is run up to today?
I think we're all, the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, I'm not trying to speak for anybody, but what I'm observing is everybody is very, very frustrated, not just here, but in other towns. We are the only state in the United States that doesn't have a settled budget. It's right. October. We're heading into the winter season. There's implications for weather-related events and sort of our budget and overtime. And everybody's trying to remain calm. Certainly I am. But this is, it's stressful. Make no mistake about it, because the question becomes, how do you operate in these times where we're dealing with uncharted terrain? How do you move forward? How do you do you veer left? Do you veer right? What kind of decisions do you make? And at the same time, as you and I have discussed, you don't want to throw the school district, the community, the kids, the teachers into a full-fledged panic, because they're there to learn. Teachers are there to teach. So it's challenging. It's frustrating. We had State Senator Heather Summers here last night to speak to our district partnership advisory council. It was a bipartisan crew, people from various political positions, and she explained the Republican proposal, which was the one that passed, right? That one did pass, and that in that proposal we are funded. There's no $4 million cut. However, the governor vetoed that. And so now we're sort of, everybody, I guess, and it sounds sort of cliche, we're in a wait and see. I know there's been some discussion in terms of the Board of Ed and in terms of the Board of Finance. Well, what will we do if we get to December and we're still in the same boat? No one thought back in May or June we'd be here. Well, we're here. And so the news reports seem to suggest that they're moving closer to settling things. However, we're in a wait and see game.
I think it was important that you mentioned that the school has a budget,
right?
Because of course Griswold's education budget did pass, but that was also including zero ECS funding cuts. Is that correct? Or was that
correct? I mean, so what the Board of Finance did, I think the Board of Finance, we as a community operated. I'm very proud of the way we operated. We were trying to wait for information to come in, so the Board of Finance moved the referendum down the road, which was very responsible given the information at the time. Unlike some communities, we did pass a budget with some cuts and some adjustments and so forth. And even though including Eric Christensen, the finance director, did include the potential for us assuming some of the teacher retirement. So we acted very responsibly, very cautiously, very strategically in a difficult time. But there's been so many proposals out there, so many, like I said, smoking mirrors. We thought no one thought that executive order would hold. Well, right now it's holding. So we're in this sort of wait and see pattern. It's frustrating. I wish, as a public official, I could give people more. I can tell you we put a hard freeze into effect.
Can you explain what a hard freeze is?
A hard freeze is unless it's necessary. So like with supplies, with orders, those sorts of things. Unless it's necessary, we're not purchasing it. So for instance, there was a request that just came through for magazines, which were budgeted, which were in the budget. We're not ordering them to the tune of roughly around $500. So we said no to that request. We've said no to a couple of other requests. We're really monitoring line by line and very closely. There's been some encouraging news. Our tuition students, we were projecting a $1.6 million revenue.
You're talking about sending schools,
right? And so our calculation as of October 1st, we're up to 1.7. So that's encouraging. Is that going to correct the problem of not having state funding? No, but we're looking at things very closely. I have a couple of administrators, without going into great detail, who are going out for whatever reason, or out on leave. We didn't bring in interims, which is usually the conventional practice. If someone goes out, you bring in an interim. We're not doing that. We're trying to kind of pick up the slack as we go and help one another out. So we're doing everything we can do, but it's frustrating, when you have and I have an enormous amount of respect and admiration for Heather Summers when she's coming to the table saying she's frustrated. They've put forward a budget. It was voted on, granted. It was from the Republican Senate. It was very responsible, line by line, and the governor decided to veto it. So there has been some movement, but it seems like they take 5 steps ahead and then fall backward 10.
So one of the things you talked about was cuts.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to have to be done here? And you mentioned, one cut that would trim $500,
right?
And then some other things here and there,
right?
That's not going to. You're not going to find $5 million there, $6 million,
right?
Are there possibilities of layoffs? Are there possibilities of class sizes getting larger?